Hello, and welcome to the wonderful world of the Commodore 64. Imagine you were just getting your 64 out, and you've not had it out in years, or you found one at a garage sale, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? Well, I'm already to the point that you've hooked it up. I will do a video on how you hook it up. We have a Commodore 64 connected to a modern flat-screen monitor, a Commodore 64, as well as a 1541 disk drive. But don't worry, the top is missing, but it's okay. And I'm imagining that you found, with your 1541 disk drive, this disk called the Model 1541 Test Demo Diskette Single-Sided, 48 tracks per inch. It had many different variations of stickers over the years, but this came pretty much with every disk drive. So, now what do you do with it? What do you do? Well, you load the directory. So you type in LOAD, quote, $, quote, comma, 8. If you're not familiar, that means LOAD, exactly as it is. A quote is a shifted 2, a $sign is a shifted 4, a quote is a shifted 2, and there's just comma 8. And you hit return. The disk drive, if it is working, will spin. And it will say, searching for $, loading, ready. And then you type in list, and up comes the directory. Now another thing we've been doing on other videos is, because I think it shows up better, we've been changing the cursor color, which I can do by pressing Control CTRL, holding it down and pressing the 2 key, which makes all the letters appear white, which maybe makes them easier to see. Now there's a number of things on this disk. There's the how to use and other such thing. There's a thing called the 64 wedge, which I really don't use, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, all kinds of things. But one thing that I do find helpful is the performance test. Now, chances are, if your disk drive has loaded the directory, it's okay. But you never know. Just because it loads, it may not save properly. So I'm typing in, although we can't see it here very well, I am typing in load performance test, quote, comma 8. LOAD, quote, which is a shifted 2. Performance test, exactly as we see it up there. Another quote and a comma 8. We'll get into the specifics of this more as time goes by. And then I press enter. Sorry, return. Not enter, return. And then it will load. And then I take this disk out. You must make sure you take this disk out. You do not want to run this program on this disk. Hopefully you have another disk that is blank. I have this one that I know is blank. Why? Because I wrote blank on it. And then you type run, and then insert scratch disk in the drive. That means a disk that is going to be formatted. And that means whatever is on the disk is wrong. Gone. If you do not have a blank disk, or sure that you have a blank disk, don't do this. But if you have a disk that is blank, this is a beautiful way to test the drive. So you press return, and it goes away. It bangs the head, that's okay. And it is now formatting the disk. And then once it is done, it goes through all kinds of things to make sure that the disk drive is performing as it should. In other words, it will format it, which means it does have to write to it because it has to format it. And then it will write things to the disk, look at those things on the disk, make sure they're the same, delete things from the disk, move the head around so it writes, it scratches, it does all kinds of things. And if in fact your disk drive is okay at the end of this, which if you can load the program, it probably is, but I have seen disk drives that will read but not write, and this test will find it. So it is doing its magical thing of formatting the disk, which means that anything that was on the disk is gone, and it will never be back. Done, finished, over. If you're not sure you have a blank disk, don't do this. Anyway, as it says, it takes about 80 seconds. Keep in mind, the 1541 is not fast. It is better than the data set, which is the tape drive can be used on a Commodore 64 and a VIC-20 and other things, because it can randomly move throughout the disk to find things, but it still isn't fast. So it has passed the mechanical test. It is now opening a write file, and it is writing data to the disk. This, of course, if it doesn't work, it'll come up and say, this unit is failing, this unit is failing, which it won't say, it'll just print on the screen. But if it is working, it is now writing onto the disk. After a little while, it then verifies that what it is that it wrote to the disk is the same as what it can read from the disk. So this indeed does make sure that, it is opening it. Okay, so close the write data. It is opening a read file. It is now reading the data, making sure that what it wrote is the same as what it gets back. This is important, because every bit matters. So it is reading, and then it will do that. Remember, the disk drive is not particularly fast, but they were reliable, and generally they worked. So it is now reading the data. It is now scratching the file that it put on the disk to make sure that it can, and it has scratched the file, and now it is moving the head back and forth. We are hearing something funny here. This is unusual. So the drive is having issues going to track 1. Okay, now it's banging the head. Let's see if that fixes it. Wow, you know what? It's funny. I was just going to do this quick little video. Oh, unit is failing. Oh dear. Unit is failing. I am surprised. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen one like this. And I have run this disk I've used many, many times. Well, you're in for a treat. So if you hear weird things like this happening, something is not right. Because this disk drive appeared to be just fine. That is, of course... Is it going to work now? No. Wow, I have never seen this before. Unit has passed... Oh, well, yeah, right. Unit is failing. Continue. I say yes. Unit has passed the performance test. It has not passed the performance test. It has not indeed. Something is not right here. But I will investigate this. But anyway. So, if you've just got a 64 and you have this disk, and you have a blank disk, it is a good thing to test this to see what is up. Because I am shocked. Because what is up is not good. Not today. Stay tuned. I'll see what I can find about what's going on with this disk drive. And unless you're really sure what you're doing, don't do anything. Don't screw in anything. Don't touch anything. Don't yank any chips. Anyway, that is all I have to say about that.